Well, Mark, I feel like I turn up with these at the moment and just end up sort of spouting your own phrases back to you. I know with previous derby games, you'd said around the emotion, using the emotion, don't get hijacked by the emotion. You probably said it a bit more smoothly than that, but it's so massive, isn't it, with derby games to get that side of it right?
Yeah, and obviously if you can get yourself on top of the game in a good position, it's easier, of course. And when you play away, it's maybe a little bit different to when you play at home in that sense, in terms of the emotion of the atmosphere or the one-sided nature of how those games can go, and how the momentum can feel in certain situations. So yeah, there's always an element of that. You accept that there's an added emotion to the game. You want that to bring the best out of you, but you need a clean game in terms of discipline. And when you watch teams that do that well, that gives themselves a really good chance. When you watch teams that don't, and there's been a few on the telly recently, it can become a really difficult night. So we'll have to be good in that sense. But we want to tap into the emotion of the game. There's no question about that.
Yeah, both matches last season had a real derby feel. Maybe the game at London Road for both sides more of a nervy derby feel, but the intensity was there.
Yeah, both games played in such good atmosphere last year, like so competitive, really good games, where really form or records in the season went out the way, particularly in the home game here. You know, the pressure on us in the home game was like immense, really, and I think one of the strengths of playing early in the season is you're so far away from the real pressure of a season and the real end point. It's a shootout. It's a one-off game, and you just think, right, it's a brilliant opportunity for both teams to add to the points, but to get a real morale boosting result. So one that I think that we are going into in good form after a good couple of weeks, and going into really looking forward to what it brings and the atmosphere that it will be played in.
I know the team's changed a bit, but you're right, it doesn't really get any more intense than you're at the crunch, the final point in a season, and you have one of these derby games. So to have come through that, it doesn't get any harder. It can't really get any tougher than what happened back in April.
No, and obviously we played ever so well that day and got a result in what was just an amazing day at the Abbey. But we didn't get to enjoy it because we had a game 2 days later, and we won the game, but no, we needed about another 4 or 5 wins after that. So it was hardly enjoyable. It was just like one small step towards what we were trying to achieve. But we go into this one in a completely different scenario. We're early in the season, really, in the big picture of things. And so both got our own objectives for the season, both got our own runs of form that we want to look after. But I think in the main, just a game that you can go and play without any fear, without any burden, shackles off, and have a right go and see what comes of it.
For the fans last season, of course, there was the real novelty is probably not the right word, but the fact it had been so long since the game had happened, the fixture had happened, it was obviously different. From a playing perspective, I'm imagining it probably was never such a big deal anyway, but is there a difference this season that you've had the 2 games last year?
Well, only for the ones that experienced that there maybe is a bit of an edge to the atmosphere in comparison to some of the other games. But you know what often happens really is you come up with teams and there's rivalries or competitiveness that exists in football that players parachute in for a short period of time in a club's history and then go and finish their careers or play somewhere else. That's just how it goes. They have to understand that when they're in, because it's a game that supporters expect and really want to win and do well in. That's normal. I think every club has these type of games, but I don't think it's one that players will have played in derby games elsewhere. If you're been here a long time or you've got local connections to the club, you probably understand that more, and it creates that little added motivation. The added motivation for any of the other players is just understanding what it means to everybody that's watching it and everybody that supports the club. But other than that, I think it's just a game that, let's be honest, in the source of the competition, it's worth exactly the same as every other game that you play, but emotionally it's worth more than that, so that has to get an edge out of you as well.
And a marker, presumably, of the impact the fans made with their support last season is that Posh have switched things around a little bit, and the U's fans won't be behind the goal this time around. Do you see that making much of an impact? It is always quite nice when you can one half play towards your own fans. Yeah, no, it was, and certainly the atmosphere behind the goal last year was unreal. It's so good, such a great number behind there. I don't know how many supporters will be behind that goal and what the overall attendance will end up being, but our supporters will make a right racket in the corner of the stand that
we're in obviously the main stand, so nothing to worry about there. I mean, whether it makes any difference, I have no idea. I mean, we didn't get a positive result there last year, so it wasn't the result defining difference anyway. So we know that they'll be there in the droves and making incredible noise and atmosphere, and they'll support the team start to finish. That's what they do, and I'm sure they're really looking forward to the game.
What do you make of Posh as a side over the past couple of matches? The front four they've been playing, the factor that really comes to mind is all the pace in there.
Yeah, and they've got quite a few options in there. Obviously, they can play differently depending if Clark Harris plays or they play with a lot of the faster players. There's an ability for players to play in different positions. I think the one thing that Darren's teams always do is that they have a capability to play different shapes and systems, tactically very astute and can change shape during games and have done. And they've got real athleticism in the team. They're a good side. They're playing really well this season. They've got some brilliant results. And in terms of just a one-on-one game against each other, we'll have to be really good. But we're capable of being really good. So we need to show up and give the best of ourselves against a strong side. But it's often the way in this level. You know, you look at a lot of teams that are fighting at the top end of it. They're strong. They've got really good depth in their sides. They've got athleticism about them. All those things. But you can't bemoan that. That's just the level of the competition that we're playing, and we want to be ready to go and give the best we've got ourselves in that, and see if we can go and get a result, because we're capable of doing that too.
With the injuries, Gassan and Jordan, have they both got a chance for Saturday?
Yeah, they have. We'll see where we are today. We've got to train this morning still, so we're not absolutely certain. Gassan's good, no problems. He's good to go. But Jordan, we need to check how he goes today, so we'll be a late call on that one. But everybody else that's been training throughout the week is good to go.
And presumably with Michael Morrison all fine after the last game?
Correct, yeah.
Cool, that's great for me.
Just on the injury front there, with Jordan, did he train yesterday and will he train today?
We'll see how he is today. That's all I'll tell you. We'll see how he gets on today, and we'll see how he goes and make a decision then as to what it looks like.
And with Zeno as well, what's his situation? Has he got a chance for tomorrow or not?
He looks unlikely. He was unavailable Tuesday. He trained yesterday, but he was a bit sore afterwards. So again, we'll check him shortly. We're training just a little bit later today because obviously to try and mirror tomorrow a little bit. So we'll start training in about 10 minutes time. So as soon as I leave this, I'll find out how Zeno is this morning and whether he's fit to train or not. But he did train yesterday, but he was a bit sore afterwards. So we need to see whether he's still struggling this morning.
And how much are you and the players looking forward to the game tomorrow? Is it an occasion that you already relish?
Oh yeah, like what's not to love? You know, a game where you've got a packed out away crowd, a pretty much sell-out home crowd. You know the atmosphere is going to be ledge. You know the opposition are strong. You know that it's a game that is going to hopefully bring the best out of us. And I think if you step back and think about years and years of not having this game, and it's been so long for this to be a regular fixture on our calendar now, is I think a really exciting one for anyone that understands its importance, and for the players to buy into that obviously, but for supporters too. So for us, it's certainly one that you always look for on the calendar when the schedule comes out. Last year it was one each in terms of the two league games, and we've got to see if we can have a successful year this year.
And what would it mean to you to get a win in a Cambridgeshire derby at London Road?
It don't really matter what it means to me. I think it would be really important to supporters, because it would be a great occasion and one of those memories. I think the mantra really simply in the 3.5 years I've done this job is you don't know how long it lasts, but when it ends you want people to look back and say during that time loads of stuff happened that they'll remember forever, and it hooked people to the club. I think we've had some. I think we've got more to come. I think our best moments haven't happened yet, but whether it's tomorrow or not, we'll see. But we're on a bit of a journey where there's some good stuff happening, and hopefully if we can add something to that tomorrow, that will be great. But it will be great because of what it means to everybody else, and the egotistical bit of what it means to me, I'll try and not talk about too much.